You know, it hasn't even been 24 hours into the new year, and I have already been struck by a bogus copyright claim from a shady company that doesn't own the audio they're trying to claim, and fake SEO experts who are promising to explode my channel's popularity. I feel like I've truly made it. So, Happy New Year, everyone. I hope yours is going at least as well as mine is. I wish you all one healthy and peaceful new year, underlined by a sense of true belonging. Today, I'm going to finally unveil my 2024 TBR, and why I'm doing it so late as compared to other people is because I did not know what it was gonna be until just this morning. I'm filming this on the 1st of January, by the way, which I think is really fitting. And in this video, we'll first go through my 2023 TBR and see how I did there. Spoiler alert, it's not great. And then we're gonna move to my 2024 TBR, what's gonna be on it, and how I decided that that's gonna be it. I hope this video is not gonna be too long, but I'm gonna put timestamps in the video description for your convenience. First thing we're gonna do is go through my 2023 TBR, and what that year was underlined by was my immense desire for experimentation, trying new things, being bold, achieving a lot. And that, I think, while in and of itself a great thing, was my biggest mistake because I went too bold. I decided that my 2023 TBR is gonna be a compilation of 2 different reading challenges, the first of which was 23 books to read in 2023, and the second one, 12 books recommended by 12 friends to read in 12 months. So for my 23 books to read in 2023, we first start with the 4 secret novels by Brandon Sanderson, of which I read 3. We had Tress of the Emerald Sea, which I read, The Medieval Wizard's Handbook for Surviving Medieval England, if I'm not mistaken, I also read this one. Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, I also read, and we had the last one, The Sunlit Man, which I didn't manage to read. Then we had Valor by John Gwynne, which was the second book in the Faithful and the Fallen series. I read that one. We also had Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb, which is the second book in the Farseer trilogy, which I also read. Then we had The Shadow Rising by Robert Jordan, which is book number 4 in the Wheel of Time series. I did not read that. We had Full Moon by Jim Butcher, which is the second book in the Dresden Files series. I read that one. We had The Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, which is the 4th book in the Stormlight Archive. I read that one. Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan, which is the 1st book in the Powder Mage series. I read that one. Gardens of the Moon by Steven Erikson, which is the 1st book in the Malazan Book of the Fallen series. Did not read this one. The Gunslinger by Stephen King, which is the 1st book in the Dark Tower series. I read this one. The Wind in the Willows, which is a children's classic. I did not read this one. 1984 by George Orwell. I read this one. Starside by Brandon Sanderson, which is the 2nd book in the Skyward series. I read this one. Terry Pratchett's Reaper Man from his Discworld series. I did not read this one. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I did not read this one. The Dragonbone Chair by Tad Williams, which is the 1st book in the Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn series. I read this one. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. I read this one. The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. Unfortunately, I was not able to read this one, even though it was on my December TBR. The Black Company by Glenn Cook. This is the 1st book in the Chronicles of the Black Company series. I read this one. Foundation by Isaac Asimov. I just read this one in December. And Caliban's War by James S. A. Corey, which is the 2nd book in the Expanse series. I read this one as well. So overall, I read 16 books from this list, and 7 I did not manage to read, which is not that bad, but still a failure, unfortunately. And then when we moved to my 12 books recommended by 12 friends to read in 12 months, I did even worse. First, we had Captains of the Sands by Jorge Amado, and I did not read this one. Then we had Death with Interruptions by José Saramago. Also did not read this one. A Lion's Tale by Chris Jericho. I started this one but have not finished it yet. And then There Were None by Agatha Christie. I read this one. The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. Did not read this one. Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I managed to read. The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. I managed to read. Manyunya by Narine Abgaryan. I did not manage to read. East of the West by Miroslav Penkov. I'm still reading. The Immortals of Meluha. I managed to read. The Night in Lisbon. I did not read. And The Night Watch. I also did not read. So out of the 12 books on this list, I have only read 4, and 2 I am still reading in progress. And why I wasn't able to read these books, I discuss in more detail here in my 2024 goals video, and you can go and watch it there. But when I sat down to think about my 2024 TBR, which I have tried to do repeatedly all throughout December of last year, I always kind of felt stuck because none of the things I came up with felt authentic authentic to me, and that is mostly because in 2024 I would like to focus on reducing the gigantic amount of series that I am currently in the process of reading, or rather have stuck in process. Just to give you a little idea, I started with over 90 series in progress and ended up with 57, I think, series. And because one of my goals for 2024 is to reduce this number of 57 series to only 20, which is a tremendous, almost impossible task, creating a separate TBR list for 2024 felt a little like creating an extra obstacle for myself on the road to achieving this goal. And frankly, knowing this made me a little uninspired. But then this morning, I sat down to respond to the comments that were left on my previous YouTube videos, and I ran into a comment by one of my subscribers that goes by Panda, and they said, amongst other things, that they're also reading a gigantic amount of series and asked for an advice if I have any. And so I sat down to think of an advice, and just like with everything else in life, when it comes to somebody else's problems, so to speak, the solution comes way easier than when it comes to our own, even if our problems are exactly the same. I don't know if you have that, it just happens to me pretty much all the time. And in thinking of my advice for Panda, I actually came up not only with a strategy for my 2024 series, but actually with my 2024 TBR. And I'm super excited to show you how I got there. So let's look at my goal. We have 57 series in progress, and we need to get to 20 series in progress. That means that I need to finish 37 series by the end of this year. Now, is this an impossible task? Not in theory, but in practice, the situation is a little different because a lot of those series are very long. So if I pick at random 37 series from this list, there is a chance that I'm gonna have to read well over 150 books in order to achieve this goal. And I have never in my life been able to read more than 100 to 105 books a year. So that will make the task practically impossible. And given that I use a TBR game which randomizes what I'm gonna choose to read every single month, there is an even bigger chance that I'm gonna fail this goal. So what am I gonna do? Well, just like everything else in life, I approach this situation like a manager, because that's what I've been doing for a big chunk of my life. And in management, when you run into a situation where you have to achieve way more than you actually can, you start prioritizing. Out of these 57 series, which series can I prioritize so as to get myself as closest to my goal in the most efficient way possible? Well, in the course of thinking of my answer to Panda's comment, I managed to develop a system for prioritization that's gonna give me the best chance of success, I believe. Hey everyone, when I was editing this video, I realized that in my original recording, I launched into very long-winded and boring explanation as to how I developed my system and why exactly I developed it this way, and I realized that nobody cares about that, so I'm just gonna show it to you. It is basically this decision tree that I ended up with, which allows me to prioritize series into highest priority, second priority, and deprioritize, as well as DNF series, which I already did in the last 3 videos that I posted. And what ended on my 2024 TBR were all the books on the first priority list. Those are basically series that were already fully published, series that don't require me to read more than 2 books in order to complete the series, and series where continuity between books matters. That means series where in order to enjoy book 3, for example, you have to have read books 1 and 2 in that order, and where knowledge retention is paramount for me to be able to fully enjoy and get everything from the series. I did decide to take that into consideration because since I've already started those series, the knowledge is actively expiring in my head, and I would like to get the best out of it, basically. Because the series where that is not important, say the Bridgerton series, for example, it doesn't matter that I already started the series, I can read book 2 or book 5 in 10 years, and it wouldn't matter that I've forgotten everything because those are self-contained. The decision tree looks a little messy, but it's actually very easy to use, and you can run every single active series you have through it, and it will help you prioritize for yourself. I have provided it as a link in the video description, and if you need any help to figure out how to work with it, don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I will be very happy to help you. So, at the end, what is going to be my 2024 TBR? Well, it's going to be all the series that managed to qualify for first priority based on the decision tree that I just showed you. And the list contains 18 series. We have Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton, Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud Montgomery, White Sand by Brandon Sanderson, The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne, The Farseer Trilogy by Robin Hobb, Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, The Lycaenius Trilogy by James Islington, Book of the Ice by Mark Lawrence, Remembrance of Earth's Past by Cixin Liu, Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, God Killer by Hannah Kaner, Themis Files by Sylvain Nouvel, Powder Mage by Brian McClellan, Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, The Winnowing Flame by Jen Williams, Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn by Tad Williams, and His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. All of those series I have printed and put in my 2024 TBR jar, and whenever during my TBR game I land on the 2024 TBR tile, I'm gonna pull a series from here and continue with it. In this way, I give myself a better chance to achieve my 2024 reading goals, but also feel better about my 2024 TBR and feel more excited about it. And that's it from me for today. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. I hope it wasn't too boring with too many analytics and all of that. We have a guest star over there. Hello. What's up? Oh, really? Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I wish you all a great day and a great 2024. Bye.